Hey, everybody, welcome back to Unknown Destination, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything travel. We are the #1 podcast in the travel industry, according to the 5 deaf guys that we passed out headphones to last week. My name's Justin. That's Andrew. How are you doing this week?
I'm fantastic. I'm really great that's the stat that we're starting with. I'm
I
really
thought
pumped
you'd be
about that.
thankful. Yeah.
Also, your strobe effect that gave me a seizure. We're gonna have to put a warning on this video for people.
Yeah, I thought about that, and then I decided, that just makes it more fun.
Yeah, nope. I'm all for it.
Okay,
Um,
good.
so stay tuned, guys, because we got a little bit something special planned for later that I think we're gonna be doing forward. But jumping right into it, we're gonna try to get through the kind of the breaking news that we've got here. First thing up, I've got Etihad Airways is an expanding business. They are offering new charter services, which is pretty unheard of, I guess, for such a prestigious airline. They're known as probably one of the best international carriers to be doing this, obviously, due to COVID and the lack of business that the world has been receiving. They're going to be including this. This is going to include, excuse me, um, cargo flights as well. So this is not just passenger that they're offering.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely surprising. I mean, you wouldn't expect a big carrier to be doing that, so I think that just kind of shows how much change is needed to be able to deal with the current situation and what these airlines are doing to make it work.
Yeah, it says it's basically a new venture. They're trying to improve cash flow because it's obviously struggling through the pandemic as everybody else is. It, Etihad is no stranger to losing the millions of dollars and thousands of jobs that most I shouldn't say every most airlines have had to endure this year.
Right on.
So yeah, that was all we had really on that one. It's just that they have so many flights that are not being used at all, and instead of putting their aircraft into storage, they're going to be doing this.
That's awesome. So I think that kind of ties into this next article a little bit and just how airlines are having to do things to adapt during this pandemic. And this next one is actually in regards to Delta. So obviously during the holidays, we're used to airlines canceling flights because of weather, because winter storms are a common thing in a lot of places in the world. But in addition to the weather this year, Delta's been having pilot staffing issues. A lot of pilots obviously aren't able to keep their jobs because they were either furloughed or they had to cut back in hours. And a lot of them decided to just retire, take early retirement, or take vacation because they needed to make money some other way. Because of that, that's causing staffing issues for a lot of the major airlines. And there was nothing different from Delta. The 2 days before Christmas, there were 325 flights canceled on Delta Connection. Some
Wow.
Yeah, some of those were because of high winds and stuff in Minnesota and Minneapolis, 2 airports that are no stranger to weather delays during this time of year. But a lot of those flights were also due to just not having pilots in the right seats at the right time.
That's actually unheard of for Delta as an organization. Delta's been the #1 on time slash doesn't canceled flights for I don't know how many years now. And for them canceling that many just this year alone, that's insane. That's honestly kind of scary that they're having those problems.
It is. And in addition to that, Delta did actually also cancel over 600 flights over the Thanksgiving holiday. And they said a lot of this is because they are trying to bring in other pilots when they can, newer pilots that may cost the airline less to pay. You can take your opinion on that, whatever it is. But they even have a problem there because they only have so many flight simulators to properly train these pilots on different types of aircraft, and that was a staffing problem for them before the pandemic. They didn't have enough flight simulators to be properly training pilots. And when you fly as a pilot, you have to be trained on the exact aircraft you're going to fly for a certain amount of flight hours. If there's no flight simulator to do that, you can't do it.
So this is a great time for anybody wanting to become a pilot, I would say, because it sounds like for the next foreseeable future they're going to be in that need. And I know that a couple of years ago the industry as a whole was talking about there were a lot of pilots that were going to be retiring within the next decade or so, and they were losing them faster than they could produce them due to what Justin's talking about, the flight hours. um, so there's a lot of training that goes into it that people don't realize.
Yeah, and you see an additional amount of people retiring now because they were offered early retirement as a way for these airlines to cut back their payroll a little bit during the pandemic. So it just made the problem even worse.
Yeah, and to go a little bit further, even from pilots, but just as the travel industry as a whole, this is kind of why the travel industry needed that bailout and still needs help from governments of their respective nations. Because when this, after the vaccine has been delivered, administered to the world, all these travel agents and hotel managers and frontline staff and tour guides, all of these people who are being forced into other lines of work are probably not going to come back to a volatile industry when they know that there is no protections in place.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. This isn't an article, but just a couple of the Facebook groups I'm in. I'm in groups with people that used to work at certain travel agencies, just, basically a community of people that left. One of those is an agency that has since closed down and was actually just acquired by another company. And I may touch on that a little bit later too. But a lot of these people have gotten out of the travel industry since and are actually very happy about it. And the number one reason they're happy is the certainty in their job. The travel industry, like Andrew and I have talked about, we've had jobs where we weren't sure when or if we were going to be laid off, and things just constantly change. And a lot of these people have moved on to like the banking industry or retail customer service stuff that, for the most part, is a little bit more stable. And I personally love the travel industry. I want to get back to working in travel as soon as possible. And I think there's a lot of young people that are going to benefit from those people who are leaving the industry because it's going to pick back up eventually. So if you're somebody who's interested in travel, obviously, if you need a job right now, it's probably not the place to look. But if you're looking for it as a career path in the next 2, 3 years, I think there's going to be a lot of jobs that become available.
Yeah, absolutely, and not even just travel agents, just anywhere in the industry. That's going
Right.
to be, and like we were talking about just a minute ago with pilots. Look to the airlines too, because all those people that were laid off and early retirements, a lot of people did take advantage of the early retirement packages because some of the companies did offer pretty lucrative ones. So maybe look into that as well if you've ever thought about it. That this also kind of ties into. I was reading an article that the 2020 People of the Year uh, was named by Lodgings. I don't know if you're familiar with that kind of publication, but they named frontline hotel staff, and that I think that that group of people is one that is not really praised as much as they should be when it comes to frontline workers, or maybe they're not perceived as frontline workers. But you have to think about how many nurses and doctors and how many other frontline workers are staying at these hotels for extended periods of time while working with COVID. I just off recent memory, I think of some of the hotels in New York City that were fully rented out for frontline hospital staff. So you're thinking that all those people are dealing with it all day, but then the people that are cleaning the hotels are also dealing with it all day. So I really like this shout out. I wanted to bring that up real quick.
I'm actually really glad you did. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm getting a little teary eyed. And I didn't expect that to take that turn, but it did. As we've discussed many times, my wife is a housekeeper at a hotel, and the stress that this has put on their staff and just the struggles I've seen her going through has been insane. A lot of hotels had to cut back staff. Normally they have what are housemen, and those are people that go in and, just strip the beds and pick up the trash and stuff for these housekeepers, and that position's not currently there. So you have these housekeepers doing the same amount of rooms they're normally doing, but doing every single thing basically to the point where they're doing three people's jobs. And now we're at a point where some of these hotels are really slowing down during the holiday season because they don't have any corporate travelers. So you're seeing these people who spent the entire year working their ass off in order to make sure that people had a place to stay. And now they're to the point where they only have 2 or 3 days a week and they're not getting any extra type of pay, from our government, no type of heroes pay like would have been in the Heroes Act here in the US had it passed. And it's sad. So I'm definitely happy to see a magazine or a publication going out of their way to recognize that the frontline hotel workers are frontline workers during this pandemic. And a lot of times they're the ones that are making it so these nurses or these hospital staff have a place to stay when they need to be in other places away from home to help out.
Yeah, I really like this too because I do have a good friend of mine from St. Louis that I met while living down there, and he is now a truck driver, and that's another one that kind of the unsung heroes, I guess, of because I honestly before reading this, I didn't even think of hotel staff, and that is somebody who works in the industry because that when you think frontline, you think, I mean, what the media has portrayed as frontline, which is grocery stores and hospital staff. So I really like that.
Yeah, and I think we could argue that yes, a grocery store person is definitely a frontline worker. They need to be recognized for doing their part in this, and they're going to see more people day to day. But we got to make sure that those people that are taking care of us are taken care of, and those hotel staff are definitely doing that. And in addition to just the housekeepers, obviously that even includes the front desk agents who are making sure they get everything they need from night to night, and the food, the room service staff, like Jess, who we had on, who are bringing them meals when they may have to quarantine because they had to
Hmm.
travel to help in another state. It's really, people don't necessarily understand just how important the entire staff of a hotel is to making a hotel operate. And so all of them are definitely need to be recognized during
Yeah,
this pandemic.
absolutely. I'm gonna keep the good vibes going here.
Yeah.
With the this on the same kind of tote. We've got Jamaica who had a boom in festive travel this past week. So 22nd through the 28th. They had a ton more people than the month previous. They're kind of on the upswing, and there's even been travelers in the industry who have said that they felt safer there in regards to the pandemic than they do in the states. So one of the safest places you can travel right now, according to multiple people that have been traveling there recently here within the past couple weeks, so that they are taking um, extreme precautions when it comes to the virus. So it definitely is a well-needed boost for these kind of touristy destinations for people to go there and then have a really positive experience, especially in like these kind of unsettling travel times.
Definitely.
So just numbers wise, about 30,000 more this month than last month to island of Jamaica. So
Wow.
it's quite a big difference.
And I think it's a good thing for them to get some positive news too. Jamaica, a beautiful place, and a lot of people love to travel there, but doesn't always necessarily have the best reputation. Depending on where you stay, there are resorts where you may run into people with certain happy fun things for your nose and things like that coming to your hotel room door. Um, I'm just saying, I know a lot of people who have traveled to Jamaica, and you definitely want to do your research on what resort you're staying at
Oh
because
yeah,
that's not uncommon.
they've got the good stuff, but don't smoke it because you'll end up in their prison. Um, just a little travel tip from somebody who would probably have done something that they offered me if I went there.
Oh Lord, the best travel tip that we will ever give you is don't end up in a foreign prison.
Yeah, they're it's not they're, I cannot stress this enough. They are not like US prisons. You're not being catered to. You're in a hole somewhere and no one's going to find you. That's that's just the truth of it. I stress that because as Americans, we are very very what's the word I'm looking for?
Hated.
No, like we're very arrogant as a
Oh,
people.
the oh well, yeah.
Where a lot of us think that rules don't apply or they shouldn't apply. Just because we're traveling to a foreign place, you should always be respectful of their culture. Um, because if you end up traveling to one of these more, I don't want to say primitive, like a third world country. If you travel to a third world country, you're going to want to make sure that you do your research on what their customs are, because it could be something very simple that you don't even think about, and it could greatly offend someone, and you could be in a world of hurt.
And the reason that we kind of that a lot of people have that opinion of us that we are arrogant because there are so many people from America that don't research people's customs and just go to these other countries, don't respect their traditions. It's funny because the first thing I thought of when you said that was Logan Paul and his Suicide Forest video, which uh you
We
know
could get into a whole rant about that sack of wine that he is.
And if you want to see somebody who's really turned his life around though and actually started to do things for the better, that's somebody to look to. But that's my opinion anyway.
Oh, we
Let-
do have differing opinions.
See, we could have a long argument about Logan Paul, but he makes enough money, so I don't need to bring him attention.
True. Our deaf
Uh,
viewers don't need to hear about that.
so, a little bit of news that I have on my end. U.S., as we talked about in our last episode, which was over a week ago. Sorry about that. Holiday break. We're busy. But the U.S. was actually going to lift restrictions for UK travelers to come into the U.S. on this past Tuesday. Instead, this past Wednesday, an executive order was signed that requires a negative COVID-19 test for all UK passengers within 72 hours of departure, and that is because the new strain that was found in the UK. Since then, we have actually discovered that the strain is already here in the US. It was discovered in Colorado.
Shocking. Shocking. Kind of like how we discovered that we actually had COVID here, at the same time China, was having their huge outbreak. We've had
Yeah.
it. So, but I did, to tying into the UK vaccination, Oxford vaccine is hoping for a kind of a new trade here. Their vaccine approval that just came through. It's the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and it's been approved for use in the UK. So
Nice.
successful trials of the Pfizer and the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine and its subsequent approval for use was credited with creating a sales bounce. So the UK they ordered 100 million doses of this new Oxford vaccine. First dose is going to be given out Monday. So with these in conjunction, they think that they're going to be able to 100% the entire UK pretty quickly. So they're saying that they're going to have a bumper summer in 2021, which basically just means that travel will be back for the UK by midsummer 2021, which is way sooner than a lot of people were anticipating with how
Including
bad it was.
us.
Yeah. So this is definitely positive news going into the new year. So honestly, all the news is pretty good, pretty uplifting or optimistic going into
Yeah.
2021 for traveling.
Yeah, I think the only other two things I want to touch on really quick aren't necessarily articles I have pulled up, but the US was expecting to have 20 million vaccines administered by the end of the year. That will not happen. They're on pace to be at around 2 million. However, President elect Joe Biden says he does plan on using the Defense Production Act and enacting that to get the vaccine out a little quicker. So hopefully, come the end of January, we'll see things moving a little bit faster. The other thing is just a little personal note. My mother in law, who actually lives in the basement part of our condo, uh, got her vaccine, her first dose of the Moderna vaccine yesterday. And then my wife, as a hotel worker, actually got a notice asking if she would take the vaccine if it was offered to her by the company. So it sounds like she may be offered that soon too. So I'm going to be the only one in this house not vaccinated by some point soon that's an
Hey, well,
adult.
it's a start. Yeah, that's and if anybody is thinking about doing some UK traveling, they are offering staycations. They're going to be returning from March onwards. Um
Nice.
so just keep that in mind, and then from UK to short haul travel in Europe. So that's going to be late April when that starts. So long haul destinations obviously are going to take more time to open up. You're still going to want to check with local restrictions if you are trying to travel to Europe, because Europe is not. You got to remember that Europe is not like the States. Every country has their own individual guidelines for handling COVID. So we'll include some pretty good links for where you can see that type of content that I've already got pulled up here for travel restrictions. And then you can, if you are looking into going somewhere else, you can look at the time as well for those destinations.
Right on. Yeah. Only two other little things. Just first, if you aren't aware of it and you're not in the US did pass a stimulus bill. It was signed into law by the president this past Sunday. I'm not really going to touch on the stimulus stuff for personal people, like individuals, but the airlines are going to receive $16 billion of money. Because of that, Southwest Airlines has announced they will not have to do those layoffs after all, which will keep
Wow.
them as one of the only major carriers in history that has never had to lay off a single employee.
they're probably the only.
I
I
think they
would
are
I
the
would I
only.
would definitely go out on a limb and just put my reputation on the line of saying that I think that that's probably the only airline to never do that.
Yeah, I would
Eh,
agree, and that's huge. You know, we've talked a lot about Southwest. I think we're both big supporters of them as the budget carrier.
mhm.
As far as I can see, they are the budget carrier because what are your other choices? Spirit.
Frontier.
Uh, okay, I like Frontier, but
But that's they're not really in the same caliber. I would
they're
say that
not.
Southwest is more part of like we say the big three when we refer to Delta, American, and United, but I would say that it's probably big four at this point, just because of how great Southwest has become over the years.
I would agree. And then one last thing I have is something looking a little bit forward in Italy. This is something that's going to take place later in next year, and it's definitely post coronavirus, but I think it's kind of cool. And that is that Italy is planning to build a retractable floor at the Colosseum so it can host live concerts and theater events. So you'll be able to see your favorite band playing live at one of the most historic venues in the world. So instead of the Colosseum just being this historical landmark, it's actually going to be used again for live entertainment.
That is surprising. I'm surprised that they could get the people on board with that, because with it being such a historical place, and then turning it kind of into a uh, like a music venue. I'm surprised that people. I have mixed feelings on it. I would definitely go, but
Same.
I'd feel weird about it. It'd probably be a really cool experience, though.
Yeah, and they're saying one of the ways they were able to get people that on is because they're saying it'll be used for high culture, but to them, high culture is concerts and theater. We'll have to see what that means. You know, are we going to see a Kiss concert at the
That's what
Coliseum,
I was thinking.
or is it going to be more like Andrea Bocelli or Yo Yo Ma? You know, are we going to
Right,
see more what's considered, you know, classical and
like
more
operatic.
respectable
or
music
or musicals. I mean
or
that
musicals?
I could definitely see the Coliseum working really well for musicals actually. With it being
Hamilton at the Coliseum
yeah,
sounds hilarious to me.
perfect. That's it. While we're over in Europe, the last thing that I had here was about Seychelles. So the Republic of Seychelles. This is kind of a cluster of gorgeous islands who are very, very uh, conscientious of their environmental impact. They want to make sure that they are preserving the wildlife, preserving the environment. Um, they so travelers. So just if you or I went, they have a certain thing in place for people to donate when they go. Obviously, it's 100% optional, and it goes straight into a environmental trust fund that they use to basically keep up the everything to maintain the islands, so that it is not being impacted so harshly, which a lot of people don't realize the carbon footprint that they leave going to these remote places, because it seems minuscule to them, but then when you times it by a million people that visit a year, it obviously that one piece of trash is going to add up pretty quickly. So they raised in local currency 1.2 million, just for an equivalent. It's almost 50,000 euros, and this is just from like travelers. So they said that one in four or I'm sorry, I don't want to make I want to make sure I get this right. I believe it was one in four people had donated to this fund. Yeah, one with more than one in four contributing with a donation. So more than one out of four people donated every time they were leaving. So obviously, it's a pretty fantastic place to go visit.
That's awesome. One, not to bring anything down on that, but just so we know, don't recommend traveling there right now because you can't anyway. They have
Yeah.
currently banned, as of yesterday, they have banned gatherings and actually shut down their schools to prevent the
Yep.
spread of COVID-19. But after that, I mean, absolutely gorgeous islands, just in the East African area. Uh, Definitely a cool place to go visit. And they have, I believe it's a breed of tortoises there that's extinct everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, they've got quite a few local animals and fauna that are can only be found there. So it's definitely on my list to go. Even before this most recent shutdown, there was only maybe 20 countries that they even allowed in, and the U.S. Shockingly was not one of them. Unsurprisingly, that we are not allowed there right now. But once everything calms down, I 100% recommend going over there and just seeing. It's got so much natural beauty there. That's their bread and butter.
Right
So
on.
I think that's that was everything that we had for that. We do have a kind of a new fun segment that we're going to try out here with pairing in with our unknown destination. I had mentioned, I've kind of teased it for a few weeks now of picking a location and kind of giving you guys a rundown of the location, how to get there, especially during these times. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with that. And I think we're going to get some help from Mr. Jack Bandersnatch.
See you guys after the break. Welcome back, guys. Thank you for being with us after the break. As you can see, we have a new person on the show. Sir, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I am Jack Bandersnatch, and I'm here to take you on some unknown destinations.
So that is right. Jack will be joining us now from here on out to bring you the unknown destination of the week. And where are we going this week, Jack?
I think we're gonna go to Peru, mate. We're gonna go to Peru. We're gonna go into the forest, into the Amazon rainforest.
I have to admit, with your accent, I wasn't expecting Peru.
I'm all over the world, mate.
Right on. Well, what do you got for us?
All right. Well, I first wanted to make sure that everybody knew how to get there, and a lot of your visitors come from the U.S. So here's what we're gonna do. I just decided that Chicago's probably a pretty right place for everybody to travel from. So I found some flights from Chicago O'Hare into Iquitos, Peru, which is going to be our final destination. All right, mate, you got it? Isn't it? Okay. All right, so we're gonna be going there. $432. That's all. $432 round trip.
Fake news.
No, it's not fake news, mate. I found it. This was just a Google Flights too. This wasn't even using no travel agent. This is just you and I from O'Hare to Iquitos.
When?
Iquitos. I'm very sorry, mate. I'm new here. This is actually so. I just searched some random dates for you because I know a lot of people be getting a little stuck crazy. So this is Saturday, January 16th. We're looking just a little over 2 weeks out. $400 round trip, and this is with no overnight stay in a different country.
It's all fake news.
That's crazy, isn't it? You do have an overnight flight in JFK.
It didn't happen.
But it did. I know that he's your leader. Bollocks, if you ask me. But this is so the routing that we've got here. It's O'Hare to JFK. You've got quite a bit of layover in JFK, about 7 hours. But you've got an overnight flight. You can't beat that for this price. You're going to be flying into Lima, Peru. You'll only have about just under a 3-hour layover there in Lima, which is perfect. The airport's pretty easy to manage. And then your final flight is that same day. So you'll be arriving in just 1 day later into Iquitos, just afternoon. So this is just honestly fantastic. So from there, I would recommend obviously going through I stayed at the Treehouse Lodge. Over here, this was a different trip. This was when I went over and visited those ruins. But we're trying to stay away from people, mate. There's a lot of craziness going on in the world. This will get you as far away from people as you can imagine. So the Treehouse Lodge, we'll put a link. I'll make sure the bloke over here puts a link in the description. But it is just a fantastic place. This is they set up all the travel for you. They'll pick you up from the airport, so you don't have to worry about those the scavy cabs that taking all your money. You don't have to worry about getting kidnapped because you definitely want to make sure you have all your travel plans and arranged because they've got some pickpockets there, and you definitely want to make sure that you are in that cab for the entire duration. You've got a couple-hour drive into the rainforest, followed by about a 45-minute to an hour in the boat. They've got a boat that'll. Do we have a child?
I like turtles.
Didn't see any turtles, mate. Sorry. They are known for the pink bottlenose dolphins. They do have teeth. I can tell you, I saw one of them buttes up close, and I had to touch it. They've got amazing wildlife. If you do end up going with the treehouse, I recommend that you stay in Treehouse 6. It's the Casa Alta. It's funny they didn't sound like that either. They didn't really make too many noises, but Treehouse 6, the Casa Alta. It is the second tallest treehouse. It is the one that I personally stayed in. You wake up to monkeys running across. You can see the monkeys leaving in the morning.
That's cool.
Pretty fantastic. You wake up, you can see the macaws, the parrots. They've got so much wildlife that you can see from this treehouse that you will be sleeping in.
That's really cool, actually. And do you know how much it is their average per night when you stay?
The treehouse was not that expensive when I went. Unfortunately, the rates they've got. It looks like they did update recently for 2021. So they've got a three day double occupancy. So 3 day 2 night. That looks like it's 700. So about 350 a night. But this is, you got to think this is everything included. You don't have to worry about tips. You don't have to worry about any of that. You're obviously that you can get to and from the airport with no struggle on your own. They do have their own kind of in-house agents that help you, so you don't really necessarily need a travel agent if you are booking through this treehouse, unless you're worried about your flights.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you got all that squared away. But it's fantastic. They have you fill out a form for when you'd like to come. They get everything set up. They let you know who your driver's going to be. They'll have a sign for you waiting. They keep track of your flights, delays, all that good stuff, so that you don't have to worry about it while you're traveling. And like I said, this when we stayed, I believe we stayed for it was 3 or 4 nights. But they have so many things to do there. I went on a night hike with this bloke, and oh my, the spiders there. They're massive.
Now, Jack, you sound like you're Australian. Am I correct?
We like to leave a little bit of mystery, mate.
Well, you just surprised me when you said you were surprised by the size of spiders.
Well, to be around the world, I'm used to my own spiders, but these things, you see them up on the trees, and they got to be the size of Sheila's head right here, just staring at you. These big old tarantulas, but those aren't the ones you got to worry about.
Now, Jack, just so you understand, we are also a podcast. Not everybody's going to be able to see who Sheila is. Do you want to explain that?
Sheila, she's my llama girl over here. My alpaca. We found her on the last adventure when we came to Peru all the time.
Okay, so sounds a lot of fun. So basically, what we're getting at is great destination in Peru to fly into. Again, what airport was that we're flying into?
This is we're going to be going through Lima, but the final destination, it's known as kind of the Amazon treehouse gateway destination, if you were. It's going to be Iquitos.
Okay.
It's definitely nothing like you don't pronounce it anything like it's spelled, mate. It's Iquitos. So Iquitos, obviously.
So obviously. So you'll be going into Iquitos. Again, that stays at the Treehouse Lodge. We will have that link down below. But if you just want the website, it's treehouselodge.com. Very difficult. I don't know why they would make their website so hard to remember.
Yeah, a little bit of the sauce mate, aren't you?
Yeah, but what else do you have for us? That's about it?
Just a little bit more about the destination. Be prepared for a bit of a shell shock, mate, especially if you're one of them US blokes, because you be traveling in there and you think that everything's all hunky dory. You get off that flight, you see the pigeon a little bit poor. The dogs be running around everywhere. There's garbage just throughout the entire city, but everybody's got a smile on the face, mate. They're just living their best life, and it just puts everything really into a great perspective.
That sounds awesome. It sounds like definitely a beautiful place to go. I'm actually looking at some of the pictures on their website right now, and it looks absolutely amazing. You mentioned that you were with somebody else. You said you and somebody else were staying there.
Yeah, it was just a short fling, mate. They just brought her on for a little bit of a trip and a little slap and pickle, if you get get my drift. We did go on a few adventures there though. They've got piranha fishing. They even allowed us to eat the ones we caught. So took a little bite of that one. They like to say they looked at me. They said throw a little shrimp on the barbie, and I was like, that's not really a thing anymore. We don't talk about that, mate. And I said, do the Harry. The people won't get that.
So the most important thing from this little segment we learned is there is not a Mrs. Bandersnatch.
No, there's Mr. Bandersnatch is a lone wolf.
Well, let's see if we can change that. If you guys want to be involved on Mr. Bandersnatch's next trip, go ahead and send us a message.
Yeah, I'll go on anywhere with anybody. I'm just so lonely. I mean, Jack Bandersnatch is always ready. That's fair suck of the sauce bottle, as they say.
Gotcha. So Mr. Bandersnatch will be back with us every week to bring us to our unknown destination of the week. Obviously, this week it was the Treehouse Lodge in Peru. Next week, who knows where it'll be? Who knows where he'll be? He'll knows what he'll be wearing. Who knows if his accent will go through 7 different nationalities?
That's fair on you, mate.
Right on. Well, I want to thank you guys again for listening to Unknown Destination this week, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything travel, and those 5 deaf guys wearing headphones can't be wrong. For myself, Andrew, and Jack, we want to thank you for being here. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.
Yeah, put a sock in it, Justin.
I don't wanna be here. Take me away.